It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Do you want to be in my vlog? Hi there. I thought it would be fun to show you the art that I made at the beginning of my summer break until the end of July. It really felt like I was coming out of an art slump because of the academical year ending and having to make so many assignments and art pieces through the whole year. So in this month I tried to get my confidence back and make a lot of art that I really wanted to make and art that I had been wanting to make for a full year but just didn't have the time for. One of the projects that I've been wanting to do for a long time again was making a big painting, and after working for a bit, I thought it was time to start that in the middle of July. I had this image in my mind about painting a very scary dog for a long time, so I decided to go with that. And after some sketches, I decided to do the hound dog from Hades. Did a little bit of research on it, but not too much. And I just quickly sketched it down and started painting because I just wanted it to be a very free project. I wasn't feeling like giving it too much overthinking. I don't want to go into the meaning of this painting too much because I prefer to let the viewer interpret it for themselves. With art, I want to make people start to reflect on their own feelings and experiences. But I did talk with a friend about what the painting made them think of and feel, and it was a very interesting conversation. So I'm also curious if anyone is watching this, what this painting makes you think of. And maybe you can let me know. I like to gather different interpretations, and they also kind of shape the meaning behind my art in the process. Well, here I am finally starting with the painting process, and I always like to go in with my darkest color for the start. I often get commentary on it from teachers that it's weird that I start with my darks. Somehow it's gotten into my system that I should start with them. I don't remember why anymore, if someone long ago told me that, but it's what I prefer. I think it's a nice way to set your shadows very strong and have a good start with the composition. I tried not to overdo it though, because I understand that if you go in with your darks too much, it's difficult to light them then up again. But yeah, I like to kind of play against the rules sometimes. I don't believe that art rules really should be a thing. I think it is nice to learn correct ways to do something, but I also think that we should all just play around and find ways that works for us. I'm using my favorite paints, by the way, which are acrylic gouache. I should check the brand, but there's in Belgium only one brand I could find in the art shops for acrylic gouache, so I really didn't have another choice. They're also quite expensive, but I personally love them way more than acrylics because they dry really matte. Sometimes they get kind of messy and like they get a sandy texture, which is weird. I'm still trying to learn to work around that, but yeah, they're very pigmented, they're very opaque. I love them, and if you haven't tried acrylic gouache yet, you should. For myself, I haven't really been able to make work with normal gouache that I really like, but this paint is really, I love it.
golden sunlight. If I'm going with you, I know we'll get to the other side. Sinking in, I know this feels right. Catching a breeze.
My plan from the beginning with this art piece was to make it a mixed media piece, so at the end I went in with some crayons, some Neocolor and oil pastels. To be fair, I kind of overdid it at the start. It was a long time since I drew with crayons and it became kind of messy. Yeah, after this I decided to leave the painting alone for a bit. I like to not look at a painting for some months before I finish it, because I feel like taking some time away from the painting makes you look at it different again. If you've been working on it, I just see too many details and everything I want to be different, but after some time apart, for me, this perfectionism mostly goes away, and then sometimes I can decide like, oh no, I think it's finished after all, or I will change some small things, but not too much. I've been doing many sketchbook trips this month to kind of start drawing my art diary again, which I kind of stopped doing. It was very hard at the beginning. I felt very insecure and it just felt like the drawings weren't flowing. But by the end of the month, that feeling went away. And I'm very happy with that. So that kind of shows that sometimes you go through more difficult times with your art process, but it always goes back up again if you keep going.
Ik weet dat niet, maar ik noem die Sor.
Every vacation I like to go paint some landscapes and nature, but for this summer break I actually wasn't going out of the country at all, so I decided to take a trip to a nature park in Belgium and paint there. I felt a little bit rusty, but I think it is nice to keep a ritual alive, and maybe I will try it again in August.
I'm just thinking I have to bend it more like this. But then I first have to cut that off.
Yeah, you have to cut it again. But it will be hard to cut. Maybe.
What do you have to cut?
And this is very random, but we met up with some classmates to make spoon rings in a park. This is the most random meetup I've ever done, but it was extremely fun and we actually made some nice things. So this is your sign to use your free will and make random art in a park. A really big project that I've been wanting to work on for a long time, and I had a vision to work on it a lot this summer, was starting my graphic novel. Now, this is a big project, so I felt overwhelmed by it, and because I was kind of in an art slump and didn't feel content with anything I was making, it felt like too big of a project to cover. But at the end of July, I decided I just need to start it because, you know, I don't think you're ever ready for making a long comic. So here I decided to start with a warm-up exercise to get my creative juices flowing. I don't know, I never do this, but I felt like today I should try, and I went to like a random website and I generated 3 words, and I think my words were pre-Raphaelite, which is like an art movement, an old art movement, portrait, and scapegoat. So it was very clear to me I would have to make a pre-Raphaelite portrait of a goat because I love drawing goats, and I didn't want to make this warming up exercise hard, so I thought I should just come up with a simple concept. Figured I had a book laying around about John Everett Nillet's paintings, which was a very famous pre-Raphaelian painter, and I found a section with portraits he did. So then I decided to take 2 of the portraits as inspiration for my warming up exercise. And I drew the portraits, the people in the portraits, as goats. Very silly. I love doing it. The first one I didn't feel so much, but then the second one I think it was way more, the reference was way more obvious, and I think it's really cute. Also, at the beginning I felt like the drawing just wasn't going very flowy, but then at the end I didn't want to stop with the exercise, and I think I actually worked like an hour on this, so I think that was successful. And after that I started working on my character design for my comic, because I thought maybe it's fun to start with my main character, because I think it would be nice to kind of have her design down. Now obviously if I'm gonna be working more on this project, it's still gonna change, and that's okay, so I'm not putting my mind too much on it. But it was a fun start, and I decided to make a character turnaround of her face. I made like this keychain a long time ago of this character that I really liked, so I traced it and then started from there. And I did it with some tracing paper, and I can insert like the portrait turnaround later at the end of the video, and you'll see it was a sweet project. And after this I actually felt like I got out of the anxiety of starting a big project, and I'm decided like I'm just gonna do little things for this, and it doesn't have to be finished fast. This can be something that's gonna take years, and I'm just gonna work on it with little bits and pieces, and you'll see it coming back, and maybe one day you'll read the book, who knows.